Today we're going to look at the freedom of religion, one of the 5 freedoms guaranteed in the First Amendment. The beginning of the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So there's 2 different clauses in this part of the freedom of religion. And they're kind of coming at the freedom of religion from 2 different approaches here. So the first, we're looking at Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. That's known as the Establishment Clause. Remember, Congress in this situation refers to any government entity, from Congress of the United States, an action of the president, all the way down to Daniel Boone School Board, me in the classroom, Birdsboro Borough, whatever the case may be. So it's any extension of the government, anything that is funded by the government. The goal here is to prevent the government from endorsing, funding, or promoting any specific religion. Because the United States, remember, we have the freedom of religion, which also means we do not have an official religion. So, I mean, you get into a gray area here. We look at, our money says, "In God we trust" on it. Some police departments have "In God we trust" on their cars. Some government meetings start with a prayer. It becomes, we say the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God. So there's a gray area here, and what ends up happening is things have to pass what's referred to as the Lemon Test. And this actually comes from a 1971 Supreme Court case from Pennsylvania, where Pennsylvania was going to help fund parochial schools, which are religious schools. They were going to take taxpayer dollars and fund and pay for teacher salaries and expenses at religious schools. So it went through. It struck that law down. But what comes out of it is the Supreme Court comes up with a 3-prong attack here. First, if the government's doing something, if it's spending money, if there's some type of action going on, it has to serve a secular purpose, meaning a non-religious purpose. So that's the first part of this. The second part is it does not overly promote or inhibit a specific religion, and it avoids excessive entanglement of government in a religion or religion in a government. An example that oftentimes comes up when we're in class together is, Christmas in Birdsboro. Christmas being a Christian holiday. Christmas in Birdsboro being partially funded by taxpayer dollars from the borough of Birdsboro. Okay, so is this a violation of the Establishment Clause? And it's basically been it was never challenged and went to court or anything like this, but Christmas has become very secular in many aspects, meaning people celebrate Christmas that aren't even religious at all, or even Christians. Christmas trees. We put snowmen, we put Christmas lights, and so forth. Some people go with the manger scene. Some people go with the cross and the birth of Jesus and their beliefs there. But Christmas trees, the Yule log, and so forth. That's these are pretty secular items. And we see that. In my opinion, I believe Christmas in Birdsboro would pass the Lemon Test. We have, putting religious displays, manger scenes and so forth, have been challenged over time, and the Supreme Court has upheld that, yes, a town can put a religious display on public property, but if someone wanted to put and actually the Church of Satan challenges this often. If they wanted to put their own display up, and they are prohibited from doing so, then it becomes a violation of the Establishment Clause, because that's in essence the government picking winners and losers. What you need to take out of this is the Establishment Clause prevents Congress from funding a religion, promoting a religion, or anything like that. Okay, so that's what it boils down to. It's why we can't have school prayer. We can't start the day off with a prayer, anything like that. So, looking at the other aspect of this, the government cannot prevent you from exercising your religion. Now, obviously, there's some restrictions to this. There's been court cases where people wanted to handle poisonous snakes because they were, they were pretty extreme in their beliefs, and they believed that if they got bit by a poisonous snake, God would save them, and so forth. It's been upheld by the courts that no, you cannot. Sure, you're practicing your religion, but you can't own poisonous snakes to carry out your religion. It's just prohibited. We can't prevent people from wearing their religious garb, and things along those lines. So you can't practice human sacrifice because claiming it's part of your religion, because obviously that's going to infringe on some others' rights. Okay, where this comes down to some debate. We look at some people who are extremely religious may want to defer medical treatment for their children, believing that God will heal their children. And believe it or not, in most states, there is some type of exemption on the books where they can refuse medical treatment for their children. And if it's done for religious purposes, they cannot be charged with neglect. Here, if we click on this here, it'll show you. There you see 34 states offer some type of shielding for parents that refuse medical treatment with religious groups, specific religious groups. All right, so that's that aspect of it. Question that will eventually probably be challenged, and we talked about this with the 14th Amendment, is now that same-sex marriage is recognized. If someone wants to practice polygamy and it's part of their religious belief, is preventing them from practicing polygamy, is that violating their rights? I would not be surprised if in our lifetime we see a Supreme Court challenge to that, and depending on which way the court is leaning at that time, you could see polygamy become recognized in the United States. If you have further questions about freedom of religion and so forth, you can click on there. Now, this is from the ACLU, and the ACLU would be considered a liberal-leaning group. It's the American Civil Liberties Union, and they oftentimes fight the government on what they're doing and are you violating people's civil liberties and so forth. You can go through here and you can read specific questions. Okay, there you see the Lemon test. Is it constitutional to teach religion in public schools? No. Now, keep in mind, you can teach about a religion. You can learn about Islamic beliefs or Jewish beliefs or Shinto or whatever the case may be. However, the class cannot teach you to believe that. Can we start the day with school prayer? So forth. So you can take a look and keep in mind, even if everyone in the class holds a vote and says, "Hey, we want to start our graduation with a prayer, or we want to start the day with a prayer," it doesn't matter because it is the rights of the individual that would be offended there, as opposed to the group. It's not freedom of religion as long as you're part of the popular religion. It's freedom of religion overall. All right. At this point, I'm rambling on a little bit, so you can explore this on your own. I'll put a quiz up for you to take regarding freedom of religion. The next topic is going to be freedom of speech.